let's live in a scenario where Caleb Williams and Drake May have been taken with the top 2 picks, and we'll go through the different scenarios. So like I said, the Patriots get a top 4 pick if they lose out. If they get 3 or 4, are you comfortable taking Jayden Daniels there? If obviously if they lose out, Bailey Zappe is pretty much locked in as he's not going to be the starter next year. If he wins out, I think it's an interesting conversation. But if they lose out, do you take Jayden Daniels? Do you trade back, try to get some more capital and get him later? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I absolutely take Jayden Daniels. I think if you have a chance to take a quarterback with his ceiling, you have to do it. You have to do it. You can't pass in the situation. You're going to pass on Jayden Daniels because maybe Bailey Zappe's okay, right? Like even if Bailey Zappe is, let's say what we've seen the last 3 weeks is who Bailey Zappe is, and I know they're 2-1, but okay, they put up 19 points on offense last week, right? The Steelers game, you got one half of good football. And then why am I blanking on the game that was in the middle? You got the Chiefs. You got like sort of one half of good football. So, yeah, I still think that the quarterback is the position of quarterback is what it is. You need to go get a guy with a guy like I wouldn't force it, right? I'm not going to like freak out and take Michael Penix that high or Bo Nix that high. But if Jayden Daniels is on the board, I think the Patriots have to take him.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, the draft is unpredictable, and you really don't want to be the team that, trades to 5 because you're thinking, they're going to take Marvin Harrison Jr., Joe Alt's going to be off the board. We got our guy. Somebody comes and swoops him out from under you, and then you have to settle if you want a quarterback for either a developmental guy or a pure pocket passer.
A little historical context on that. The last time a team traded down from a top 10 pick and took a quarterback in the first round was 1995. The Panthers traded from 1 to 5 to Kerry Collins. Steve McNair went 3rd, by the way. So that it shows the way teams approach the quarterback position in the draft. And I think correctly have you. If your guy's on the board, take him. Take him. Because how many, the number of quarterbacks that have been traded up for in that time, it's a lot. I don't have the exact number, but it's a significant amount. If your guy's on the board, you take him. You don't flirt with it. Let me put it this way. If you think a guy who's going to win you a Super Bowl is sitting there, is there anything worth risking moving down 2 spots? You're going to get a 3rd-round pick. Is that worth some bizarro thing happening where now you lose the guy that you think is your future Super Bowl winning quarterback? It's not. So is it maybe a little bit of an overdraft? Yes. People thought the Chiefs overdrafted Patrick Mahomes in 2017. Right, yeah. Does anybody talk about that anymore? Not really. That's kind of the point. If you hit on the pick, it's all well and good. And if the guy isn't good, doesn't matter whether you took him at 3 or 5. You have a bad quarterback. You got to start over anyway. So if your guy's on the board, you take him.
FanDuel is the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
And if you're going to overdraft at any position, it's going to be quarterback because no one's really going to give you crap if you take, especially a Jayden Daniels. It's not like you're shooting for a Penix or a Bo Nix where there's like, yeah, no, legitimately you should have waited and that was really bad. Jayden Daniels is one of those guys with his talent, as you said. You really want to pull the trigger because it's so easy for somebody to take him out from under you. So if they end up winning one game, so I'll try to make it interesting and say that Bailey Zappe plays really well against either the Bills or Jets defense. So if he struggles against one of those defenses, like that's what we're expecting. But if he has a game like he had last week against the Broncos, where it's, oh no, he looks good in the pocket, he's moving around, he's making plays off schedule, he's throwing really accurate deep passes. If that happens, does that change your mind at all? Do you feel like, okay, maybe we get, because we were talking about this in the media workroom, like maybe you get Joe Alt because, again, that is probably the second hardest position to get a true franchise player where you lock him in for 10 years, you say, this is our guy, we don't even have to think about this position. Do you start flirting with that, or is it still, we're taking a quarterback?
No, because you got to go by the entire body of work. That's just the reality of it. You got to go by the entire body of work, and at best, he's inconsistent. And you can't win with an inconsistent quarterback. So unless he I know what I've seen. I know what I've seen him. I think he's done a good job. I think he's proven to be a capable backup, a bridge starter, a spot starter in this league. But you're starting from scratch anyway, right? You might as well swing big. What's Bailey Zappe's upside? What's Jayden Daniels' upside? If you get the best version of Bailey Zappe, you should be counting on yourself to get the best version of whatever player you have at quarterback. That should, that might not be the Patriots' approach, but it should be. If you're counting on yourself to get the best version of whoever you have at quarterback, whose best version is better, Bailey Zappe or Jayden Daniels? I think that's an easy one.
I absolutely agree. I really got no notes there, especially considering, okay, you talk about even if the offensive line, you don't have that franchise left tackle, and you try to do your best, but it's still not a great unit. You're going to get a lot more out of Jayden Daniels with a bad offensive line than you're going to get out of a Bailey Zappe just because he's stuck to the pocket. And you can move if you give him a big gap or something like that, but it's not the same.
Let me be clear. This is not me saying that the offensive line is fine. This is not me saying that the wide receiver room is fine. They're not. And those need to be addressed as well. But the reality is good quarterbacks don't come available. There's a lot of good wide receivers in this draft. There's some good tackles, but there's always one or two good tackles every year. There's never, ever, like the whole thing about good quarterbacks being available in free agency and via trade. I know that's kind of become the norm in the last couple of years. That's because there was such an overflow of talent at the quarterback position in the 2010s, more than the league has ever seen, that it created this kind of anomaly where you saw guys like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, Phillip Rivers, Russell Wilson, Matt Ryan changing teams. I think Rodgers was the last, like, who's next from that group? That they've all aged out now. I know some people say, oh, you signed Baker. The Bucs are idiots if they let Baker make it.
He's not going anywhere.
They are not letting that guy out the door because they don't want to be in the spot the Pats are. I say this all the time, Taylor. The worst place you can be is in the quarterback carousel. That is a scary, scary, scary place to be as an NFL team. There's a reason I held on. You guys kind of got after me for holding out hope for Mac Jones as long as I did. Part of the reason for that was I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to be in the quarterback carousel because it's terrifying. So you still need to address tackle. You still need to address wide receiver. But there's other ways to do that, whether that's Troy Smith or Jonah Williams in free agency. I think like you can get a guy, Patrick Paul, early in the second round, who's maybe not a potential all-pro like Joe Alt is, but I think is a plug-and-play day one starter and is going to be a good, capable NFL tackle. There's wide receivers in this draft that are going to go in the second round that I have first-round grades on, guys like Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell. You also have T. Higgins is going to be available. Mike Evans, if the Bucs have to pay Baker Mayfield, they may not pay Mike Evans. They may say we're going to go young wide receiver. He could be a guy that's available. There's also future years because almost every year, there's 3 or 4 first round graded instant starter offensive tackles. Most years you get that at wide receiver. Last year, I think, was kind of a fluke year where you didn't, but most years you're going to have good wide receivers. The way it's going with quarterbacks right now, it's not guaranteed you're going to be able to draft a quarterback every year. We were talking about the 2022 class earlier in the day, Taylor, off the air, that 2022 quarterback class where Kenny Pickett was the only first rounder. Your face says it all, Malik. But like Bailey Zappe might be the second best quarterback in that class.
Actually, yeah.
Brock Purdy, who went last, and that's, if you're going to have the Niners offense, great. You can afford to do that. Show me how the Patriots offense stacks up to the Niners, and I'll tell you they can wait until the 7th round to take their quarterback. There's more and more classes like that. I think even this past year was not a great quarterback class. I didn't love, and this is going to sound like revisionist history, but it'll be great, Taylor, because nobody lets me talk draft outside of being relevant to the Patriots. Now I have this show to go back. Bryce Young's a decent prospect. I didn't love him. I thought CJ Stroud came with his risks. Obviously, he's panned out. Houston did a great job. Anthony Richardson was a pure project quarterback. And then that was kind of it in terms of potential starters. And Albert Breer had this report, I think it was last week, and I agree with him. You go back to that 21 class, and you put all the quarterbacks in the same draft. Trevor Lawrence is still 1-1. Caleb Williams is 2. Drake May is 3. And it's probably between Jayden Daniels, CJ Stroud, and Justin Fields for 4. So you're not you can't necessarily say we're going to push it to next year. These things change drastically with the transfer portal and all that. Like this time last year, we didn't know Jayden Daniels would be an option. But look, if that's the game you want to play, Shadur Sanders is going to go 1-1. So you're counting, are you going to have the worst record in the league if you add a good tackle and a good wide receiver? The other guys who are projected first-round picks, Cam Ward is kind of a similar, less polished Jayden Daniels. These are the other guys projected to go in the first round right now. Riley Leonard, my comp for him is Sam Ehlinger. Tyler Van Dyke got benched at Miami last year. Will Howard is an NPC quarterback. I mean, like, he's fine, but he's not anything to get excited about. And then that's it. The guys who are supposed to be the elite quarterbacks in this class, Drew Aller and Kyle McCord, both sucked this year. Like, McCord had to transfer out of Ohio State. So you were playing a dangerous game. If you say, I'll get the quarterback next year, you might not be in a position to get a quarterback next year. There may not be a quarterback for you to get next year. You don't take chances. And this is why I still stand by Mac Jones was the right pick. Even if it didn't pan out, because what would they have done the next year?
And it's not like they had any other options in the class either.
Exactly.
It was like
Mac
was their
Jones
best
was
option.
the only guy who was an option. And if they'd waited the next year, they probably would have ended up with Kenny Pickett. So great, you still get Mac Jones just 1 year later. When you
Tiny hands, Mac Jones.
Right, exactly. When you have a chance to take the quarterback, you have to do it. That's just the way the NFL works. That's just the way the league is set up. I hate it. I missed back in the day when you could take a running back in the top 5 because every position mattered and teams are more well-rounded. They're not anymore. And that's unfortunate. But if you want to win games, you got to play the game. And that's Jayden Daniels or whichever quarterback. We talked about this before. And Daniels might go too. It might be Drake May. You got to take the quarterback.
That was one of your best rants
of
this entire series. That was fantastic. No notes.
It's basically my entire draft philosophy for this year laid out.
I might piss you off a little bit with this one, but play devil's advocate for the sake of conversation.
Yeah.
Would you have any interest in Russ to become? And I will throw Kirk Cousins into that mix as well.
Nope. No? So I'll actually give you another guy. Kirk Cousins I'm out on. He's what, 35, 36. He's coming off a torn Achilles. Like if they were to draft somebody in the first round and you're going to tell me Kirk Cousins is the bridge guy and he's here to mentor the younger guy, like I could get into that. With Russ, it's kind of the same thing. Like if he's here, but I don't think he's going to sign to be a bridge guy. He's not going to sign with a team that's drafting a first round.
Like Russ as a mentor sounds genuinely terrible.
Right.
Terrible.
If you're going to draft a short, mobile quarterback who is just all over the map and completely unpredictable, if you're going to sign a short, mobile quarterback who's totally all over the map and completely unpredictable, go give me Kyler Murray at that point. And I'm not saying I want Kyler Murray, but Russ is old. He's been hurt. He hasn't played well the last few years. He's a head case. He's going to want a decent amount of money. You can't draft somebody because you don't want to piss him off. No. I'm out on Russell Wilson. There probably are teams he makes sense for in the league. I think Atlanta would be a great fit for him. That's one team because they run a good offense for him. And he, much like Arthur Smith, just does not consider throwing to tight ends ever. So that's kind of a match made in heaven. Atlanta makes sense. I had one other one, and I don't remember who it was, but I had one other one in my head. Oh, Seattle. If they're done with Geno Smith, like if Geno Smith, if they're like, we want to reset it, maybe he goes back there. Although I don't know what his and Pete's relationship is like. But yeah, I don't need to see Russ in New England. We already did Cam Newton. I'm good on that.
Agree. All right. So now the last scenario that we're going to talk about was if they win out. If they win out, and this is, to make this interesting, Bill O'Brien mentioned how Zappe is getting better. Bill Belichick said Zappe is getting better. And again, last week was a legitimately good performance. In Pittsburgh, we talked about it. I still had my questions where I was like, I think he got lucky on a few of those throws. I didn't like the decisions. I thought he was really slow processing, and there's still issues. But the highs were like, oh, no, this is very real. And he cut way down on the turnover-worthy plays. He had the opening fumble, didn't have another one after that. And that is significant because the whole thing Belichick said is protecting the football. That's your first job as the quarterback because you touch the ball more than anybody else. So if he gets better and you see, he's playing well against the Bills. He's playing well against the Jets. Those are two of the best defenses in maybe not the Bills necessarily, but they're a good defense. They're well coached. Jets are one of the better defenses in the entire league, and they're in your division. So that's a pretty significant showcase. If he wins out, has like 100 passer rating in both games, and you're looking and saying, I'm seeing the progress. It's not perfect, but, he's showing me something very real. Do you still say, I don't care, I would rather have a guy who's proven he could at the very least be a great backup and maybe even a good starter? And then you get a guy at quarterback who you get in the draft and you say, this is the athletic freak. where if Bailey Zappe doesn't work out, then, we're still in a really good position. And this is considering if they had a top 9 pick. So they'd probably have to trade up, or they'd have to stand pat, get Jayden Daniels or something like that. Or do you say, no, Zappe has really shown me something. I want to stick with this guy. He's going to be cheap. And then you go and get your Joe Alt or your Marvin Harrison Jr.
Trade up and get the quarterback. Everything I said still applies.
Yep.
Get up, get Jayden Daniels, go where you got to get him. It's playing game in the NFL. You got to go. And we just kind of went through it. Like, there aren't as many teams in need of a quarterback as you'd think. Go up and get the quarterback. You got to do it.
Not even wait to get a Michael Pruitt or something, or a Bo or somebody like that. Like, you're saying, no, get your top quarterback.
No, the drop from Jayden Daniels to Michael Penix, and everybody knows I like Michael Penix. The gap between Jayden Daniels and Michael Penix is significant. You're talking about a different kind of player.